think we don't, that's not gonna fix that.
Oh, no, that goes away,
Oh, that
because you
goes
can
away.
go straight to the TV.
Oh, we're going right to, is there gonna be an Apple TV?
Good evening and welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, October 26, 2017. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, it's nice to see everybody here tonight. Thank you. Before we get into the regular business, I do just have to make a motion to approve our consent agenda. So I will make a motion to approve regular session minutes of October 12th, 2017, safety minutes of September 21st, 2017, public relations minutes of October 10th, 2017, and acceptance of warrants 17V, 17, and 18P18.
So moved. Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, we have our student rep here, Chloe. How are you?
Good.
Good. I
Everyone?
hear there's a homecoming date.
Well, we finally got a date. Yeah,
Yay.
it's next Friday from 8 to 11. I know. That was very exciting. I was very happy this week that we got a date.
good.
Other stuff that's going on, that fall sports are ending, which is really sad because all our seniors, our senior games are happening. So that's sad. Our field hockey one was yesterday. I know soccer was today. So it's girls
It's
soccer.
emotional, I know.
Yeah. And also, I think it was, this week I went into the Makerspace with my intern class, and that place is awesome. Like, there's so much stuff in there, so many things you can do. I know creativity classes are using it, and yeah, it's a great place.
Did you look at the robot that's in there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of
That
robots
was
in
neat.
there. That
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
Good, that's great. Who's gonna be the DJ for the homecoming?
So do you know Mr. Doherty?
Uh-huh,
It's his friend, so
okay,
got a
that's
connection
good.
through him.
And there's no football game because tomorrow night
Tomorrow night.
is the beginning of playoffs for football?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
There is a football game. I'm not sure if it's home.
I
though.
thought there was too.
Yeah.
what, the following Friday night?
I
will
thought
be?
there was, but I don't know,
Actually,
because
it should be
maybe it
in the
depends
home,
on
yeah.
who wins and who doesn't,
In
you
the-
know what I mean? I know Mr.
It's in
Prescott
here.
said there was one tomorrow night.
Should be.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And they
well,
were
that's
trying
good.
to get one, remember, on a night there was a game. Remember, that was
Yep.
that was the challenge. So I don't know whether that
Right,
happened or not.
right. Okay, well, we wish the football team much luck tomorrow. Hope they do well. Does anyone have any questions for Chloe? When does the first quarter end?
Next Friday, actually, November 3rd. Yep.
How did Unity Day go?
It was great. Yeah. There
A
was,
lot of people wearing orange?
yeah, I mean, depends. But it was great. There's a lot of signs everywhere.
The other one.
Peer leaders are doing great with that, so that's good.
Good. Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. Is there anyone here from the public that wants to talk about anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, I am going to just make a quick agenda change. I'm just gonna pull up the approval of the CIP items, so we can have Mike Anderson come up quickly and talk about those, and then we'll follow the rest of the agenda. Hi, Mike.
Oh, hi.
Okay, so. Thank you for meeting with us this morning and talking about this. I'll get my paper. Okay. So you've prioritized a list of things that we're gonna put forward
Forward, yeah.
to the CIP.
Yep. The first sheet is kind of an ongoing capital improvement list that the school has, and the ones that have the darker highlight through them are projects we completed.
Yeah.
And then the second sheet is just a summary from the town of different things that they've approved and how the town CIP board has laid it out as far as their kind of long-range planning's been. That is always subject to change based on needs of the departments or whatever, too.
So they've already approved these?
They've been approved to be proposed.
Yeah.
They've been put forward, they haven't been funded.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no
They
funding
wanted a
for them, but
10-year
they're,
plan.
They're on their agenda,
Okay.
radar or whatever.
Okay, so I noticed the school auditorium curtain on the proposed list is $31,000, whereas we have it as 21.
So this sheet
Which
here
We
is
definitely need it without a doubt.
like, I started this like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
And as we put projects off, the prices go up. So
Got it.
I've updated it on the town side, but my running spreadsheet hasn't been updated.
okay, all right. You know, the whole auditorium is like, when I looked at this, the first thing I think of is the auditorium at the high school.
Yeah,
And, you know, the lights. I mean, I went to a play, I think it was last year, and there was one person who was sitting watching the play, and the light was just flickering on her. I would have gone nuts if I were her, but it just, you know, they don't go on and off when you want them to.
Yeah.
It's just, and I imagine that's because of the system. So, yeah, the lights and I don't see, I'm sorry, I just like had all these ideas about this, so, the sound, you know.
so
I've
they just
noticed-
got a grant for the sound system and they're gonna be updating that.
And the
Oh,
lights.
good.
And they did a grant for the lights and got LED light fixtures, for the stage lights.
Okay,
And we're gonna kinda do our own thing with the house lights to
okay.
try to, get those so that, cause they're
Okay.
fluorescent lights and as they start to wear out, they flicker.
Right.
So LED is a
But
lot more.
LED shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
you
correct,
know.
yeah.
Right.
So we've changed a few fixtures with LED fixtures and it's worked out well, so we're gonna
Oh, good.
keep going with that.
Okay, alrighty. And just with the sound, I mean, I've been going to a lot of plays throughout the years because in my mind, this is like high culture in Georgetown and the students work so hard and the staff work so hard and they're just
Yeah.
incredible productions. But I noticed with the middle schoolers, they, you know, they just don't have the larynx or the lungs or whatever as
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah,
So they need you know, high quality sound systems.
To pick up their
because
voice, yeah.
It just seems, they work so hard, they do so much, but I can't hear what they're saying. Now, the high schoolers, I never have trouble hearing what they're saying. But I imagine they're just, you know, they're bigger kids, they're
Yeah,
just
they're-
louder kids. But I think we should have a sound system that makes it possible for everybody to be heard.
yeah.
Well, they use those personalized mics, don't they, for the play?
Some do, they have the lavalier.
Right.
They don't for all of them, but the main characters typically do.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
And they use those at Pembroke.
Right.
The mics, right, yeah.
Yep.
yeah, which is probably
Because the kids
relatively
are so
new,
small, yeah.
right? You know, so I'm just in favor of keeping all of our equipment up to date so
Yeah.
the kids can be heard
So,
and.
so there's, X amount of dollars, I think it was in the 600 plus was what 600 plus was what free cash certified as. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that all $600,000 is gonna be able to go to new expenses.
Right.
But when we met this morning and we took a look at this, we came up with sort of three priorities we wanted to kind of put before you. One was the trim work on the school, cause if you, and Mike did attach pictures, so you can see there's one, so if you look at Pearly School, right under the roof, cause we've done the roof, you notice that they call it dentistry, but that soffit, that's really, in some cases it's rotten, in some places in the back of the building, so birds and things fly in it, and that's not a good thing, you don't
No.
want birds and squirrels and things in your building. So, we said that we thought that was the highest priority.
Oh.
And then the stage curtain was the second highest priority,
Yeah.
because if anybody has not gone to there, if you go to the stage and you look, it's held together with duct tape. It's really in bad shape.
Must be pretty old.
It's outlived its useful life, and it's done well by us for a long time, but it is
But it
time
is
to look
time
at that.
to-
And then the third, item that we looked at, even though like the pearly windows are important, that's a $225,000 price tag, cause it's historic.
Windows.
So what we talked about was going back to CPC for that, because they do deal with historic preservation, so, and then we think that when we go to CIP with that, they're gonna say, you need to go to CPC with that, because it's historic preservation. So we're proposing for right now to sort of remove that from the list, this list. And then the last one was the dump truck, and Mike can speak to that, because,
About 4 years ago, we got a used dump truck from the highway department.
Yes.
And I think you guys were all aware of it, but when we got it, it was old and it's older and it's very rusty and, you know, we spent, about $1,000 on it recently to replace some rotted hydraulic lines for the brakes, and when I took it to the shop, the guy said, everything's gonna start going on this, so it is something we have to consider. And we do use it all the time for clay, mulch, soil, rocks, whatever we're moving around the school grounds.
So the $55,000, that's brand new?
Yeah, it's brand new, yeah.
Surplus?
We'd probably get like a 20-year life out of it if we, because the truck we have is about 18 years old now from the highway department.
The financial death of a vehicle is when the cost of the repairs
Yeah.
is more than the value
Yeah,
of
of
the
it.
vehicle.
Yes, correct, yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay, so these have to be provided to them by Thanksgiving, before Thanksgiving?
No, that's the CPC, I think you're.
Yeah,
Oh.
CPC is
So
Thanksgiving.
all right.
I think we wanna get
starting
these-
to meet November 15.
Yeah, I think
plus
they
or
were starting to
minus.
meet, so we just
We
thought we'd
Okay.
get.
And
Yeah.
then, okay, so then you're gonna get the information for the windows, the pearly windows over to CPC.
yeah. And I can
before-
get, one, if that's the prioritizing of these, I can get these to Mike Farrell for CIP as well.
With an accurate quote.
Yeah,
right?
with
So
all, and I'll get 3
it
updated
gives-
quotes.
It gives a
and
little window for Mike to get that information before going to CIP, so we know exactly.
We just
what
wanna
it costs.
have you guys prioritize it, so I know what order to ask for it.
Do the windows need to be, they don't all need to be done at once, though? I mean, I know that's,
No,
that's
yeah, we could
obviously
say,
it would be a lot easier, but if we,
yeah, the savings to doing it all at once is anything under, over the threshold of, say, 150,000 or something like that, Suzanne can correct me, you need to hire an architect for. So if you're gonna do it in piecemeal and it's gonna cost you for 2 architects, you know, it might be worth it doing it all at
yeah.
once.
Makes sense.
Okay. Well, as I said this morning, I'm fine with those
Yeah.
priorities. How do you
In
guys
that
feel?
order.
Trim
Yeah.
curtain truck.
Trim curtain truck. Yeah,
Sounds like a lot of other things will be taken care of, and the floor to the auditorium will wait.
Well, we'll be able to do some of that
Yeah.
ourselves, but it will wait, yes.
Okay.
We think that, we agree with you that
That
the
can. I
auditorium is a
mean,
large project
yeah.
that can be done in pieces.
Yes.
But I'd love to see the town get behind supporting that, because that is the one place in the schools that the whole town
right.
uses.
Utilizing, yeah.
Yes, that room needs a lot, but I can understand, you know, you do have to prioritize, I mean, you can't do everything all
Yeah.
at once. Got it.
Okay, so trim. Okay, I will make a motion to, move forward with the CPI, the request for the pearly trim as a first priority. Second priority would be this, the Georgetown Middle High School auditorium curtain, and the third would be the dump truck as presented by Mike Anderson.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Great. Thank you.
Do you wanna talk about the CAD job before I leave?
The what?
The data person?
Oh, I think we're okay.
Oh, you're okay.
Mike.
All right.
I think we're
Thanks.
good. Thank
Just
you,
wanna make
though.
sure.
Thank you. We'll let you go home.
All right, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Okay, next, so the trip to Quebec, we're gonna hold off on talking about that, for a later date. We do have, in our audience this evening, we have the recipient of a very prestigious award that, we're very happy to have you and your family here. So the Superintendent Award is being presented this evening.
Yes, so come on up, Kate, you sit up at the table, you all can come on up, you all share it, it's up to you. So,
Come on,
we're
Erin.
really excited to have, Kate and Kate Irons and her family, and her
Guys
sister
wanna come
Erin's
up?
gonna come up.
Mike
And
and
Mike
Mo.
and her parents, Mike and Mo, very happy to have you all here tonight. So, you know, I write a little bit of information to the.
A little bit of information.
Well,
It was-
I
it was
had a hard time
a full 2
stopping.
pages.
I had a hard time stopping, so I'm gonna try to give a summary, but it is hard when you're talking about somebody like Kate that you know, to be selective. But it really does give me great pride to award the Superintendent's Award to Miss Kate Irons, you know, who's thankfully here tonight. And today was a big day for her. They had their last girls' soccer game, so they were having a lovely little reception after. And she probably just had time to go home and shower because there was cake all over everybody, and then come. So it means a lot that you're here personally. So thank you, Kate. So as I tell you every year, it's just such an honor for me to have to give an award, to get to give an award. But it's also one of the hardest things I have to do because you know, we have wonderful students at Georgetown, and I talked to the top 5 students in the class, and they're all amazing, right? They all, and I did ask them if they would mind sharing their transcripts and their information, and they all said no. They're very happy to do that, and a lot of the reason why I like to do that is, you know, I just think it's important for all of you to see the kinds of courses the students take, the things they do in their free time, the way they contribute to their school, the athletics and things they're involved in through clubs. And we have very busy kids, and these kids that are at the top of the class, they're busy, but they all still manage to do it all. So, I want to recognize also John Blythe, Nick Feretto, Tate Blazonis, and Allison Rylander, because they're all very deserving of recognition. However, when I had to make a choice, it wasn't very difficult for me to select Kate, largely because she sort of, to me, I said, I wrote a little letter for her, and I said she's like the all-around total package as far as I'm concerned. So speaking of someone who's going to do great things, it is my pleasure to present Kate this award, and I wrote in here, simply put, Kate is a star. She's not only is she first in her class, which is not an easy thing to maintain over the course of her whole 4 years. She will be our valedictorian this year, and that's a huge honor for her family as well as Kate herself. As you can see by looking at her transcript, that she's taken every kind of rigorous course that we have. In her senior year, she's still taking AP classes, which says something about the way she likes to challenge herself. And if you look at her grades, I think she's got nothing lower than an A, and a number of them are A pluses, which, again, when you talk to her teachers, they always say that, not only is Kate smart, but she's a really hard worker, and she's a great role model. She challenges herself, and she's somebody who's intellectually very curious, and she does extend herself to accept all kinds of challenges. So she was also recognized this year, I think I mentioned to you, as a commended student for the National Merit Scholarship Program. And as an underclassman, she did receive a number of the prestigious book awards. I give those underclassmen awards, so I had the pleasure of giving Kate a number of them, and I listed them here for you, four of the ones that I think are the most prestigious. And then, if you looked at her grades, you could see why she would be the recipient of a lot of academic awards at the end of the year. So clearly, not only is she a standout student, but I also think of Kate when I think of a standout leader. She's the president of the class of 2018. And that's usually, an award that goes to somebody, to somebody that people look to as a leader, somebody who can pull a class together, who can get things done. And she also participates, she's very dedicated to service, so she participates in the Key Club, a National Honor Society, and she took on the job, I think, in your junior year of being the tutoring coordinator, because one of the things that's great about the National Honor Society is they do a great job tutoring kids in the school that need it. And, to not only be a tutor, which Kate is, for her to take on the responsibility of organizing all of that says something about how committed she is to doing more than just being a member of something. She likes to lead and do something positive. So I think of her as having a positive can-do attitude and a great ability to work with all kinds of people. You can just see she's got a little infectious smile, and she's got an enthusiasm that I think is just really catchy. And I feel like people really want to be around Kate. She's just one of those people you want to be around. And then lastly, I would just say that, not only is she a great student and gives back to her school, but she's also what I would say is a very gifted athlete. These days kids don't play 3 sports. Usually they'll pick a sport and then they'll give it their all year long. But, in my day, you played 3 sports. That's kind of how it worked, and that's been a while. But I'm so happy to see that Kate is one of those kids that does do 3 distinctly different sports and excels in all of them. I think, one of the things that, again, she's the captain of all of them. So that, again, speaks to how people view her as a leader and as someone that they want to follow. I mean, I listed for you a lot of athletic awards that she received, from all league to most valuable players to recognition not only at the league level, but and in the area through some of the newspapers have recognized her. And I think the thing that I want to say about Kate is that not only she's really a solid athlete, but that's not really what drives Kate. She's about the team. And, she's somebody who doesn't really want she doesn't strive for all the accolades for herself. She really cares about how the team does and the development of all the players. So I think that is one of the reasons why I think her teammates and her coaches constantly recognize her as someone who is unique in that way. So she does work extremely hard on and off the field, off season. And, you know, she just has an amazing work ethic and I think a commitment to personal excellence that I think is going to be do you really well in life, Kate. She's interested in pursuing a career in a STEM field. We had a conversation about that. She does enjoy all the subject areas, but she really likes and has a passion for science and math. And she's considering majoring in biology or scientific engineering in college. So there's lots of ways you can go with that, and she knows that, you know, just getting that degree, she can take a look and see where that takes her. She's applying to a number of prestigious schools. We talked about Notre Dame, Duke University, Northwestern University, College of the Holy Cross, and University of Massachusetts. I'm not sure exactly in what order, but she did talk about those were some of, you know, the goals she had. And if she did choose to go to something like UMass, she would be eligible, because we just found out the other day that Kate and a number of other students whose names I put in your packet just were recipients of the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. So Kate describes herself as devoted, considerate, and responsible. I agree with every one of those, but I would also add that I think she's determined, ambitious, and just sweet. She's very sweet. Those are words that I think of when I think of Kate, and so I am completely confident that she'll be successful in anything that she does. And I know we're all going to be hearing great things about what happens in college and beyond for Kate. So, like Barbie said, I could go on and on about Kate, but I'll just conclude by saying that it really gives me great pleasure to award the 2018 Superintendent Award to Kate Irons. So Pam's going to take a little picture. Absolutely. On the block, Kate. All right.
Perfect, yeah, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me just take, get the whole family in there.
Okay, yes, everybody there?
1, 2, 3, cheese. Sorry. Okay.
All right, thank you. Congratulations again. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, you're so welcome. She's a doll. Congratulations, Mom. Congratulations.
Kate, if you want to just sit for just a minute, we're just going to talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
Just for a minute.
You can still stay.
I just want to say that when I got the information in the packet that you were the receiver of this award, I was very pleased. All 5 of the top 5 students were all very impressive. But I just want to say that I think I haven't had really the opportunity to see you much in action as a child or an athlete, but I did have the pleasure this soccer season. And my daughter had a wonderful experience with you as the captain. So you were a great leader, so when the superintendent said that. But I've always heard wonderful things about you. I know your parents, and it doesn't surprise me, and I'm sure your sister. It's so tough to hear all these things, right? But it must be wonderful, though, to have this role model, right? Does it?
Erin will be next.
Might be talking about Erin.
But it really, it doesn't surprise me at all, and I know you're going to do wonderful, wonderful things, and I'm really excited for these colleges that you're looking at. It's very impressive.
Oh, thank you.
What was your favorite?
Yeah,
Did you tell me
what
that
is your
game
first?
You were doing early.
I'm applying there early, and along with University of Michigan and UMass Amherst.
So what was your first one?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Okay, which we had our graduate last year that attends Notre Dame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting, I was thinking of Mark Weiner, because last year his son got the Superintendent's Award, and he's here tonight to witness this.
Where you guys are, that's.
That is. So you're in great company with the people that have received this award. But you really are a wonderful kid. And we appreciate it, and I think it's great that, your class respects you, the underclassmen have a tremendous amount of respect for you, just because of the way that you come across to everybody. So that's greatly appreciated by me as a mom, I want to say. So that's great.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Welcome.
So Kate was my student.
Yeah.
So you did
So that's why.
You sharing this success.
Mental time.
So she was part of the loop up.
Yes, and that was, so, yeah, 4th and 5th grade.
Wow.
That was when I was pregnant with Kyle, and when I got the packet, I texted her mother right away. I'm like,
Not surprised.
Kate, because everything Carol said and more is like, I'm like, okay. Even, when I started looking at her, I completely remember her handwriting. It's the same. But I could have predicted this probably in 4th or 5th grade. Kate has always gone above and beyond. We almost talked about her being a victim of her own standards because she just above and beyond. So we're very proud of you.
Thank you so
Very
much.
happy for your whole family.
Yes.
And,
It is
Exciting senior
It's
year.
great. You're a
Yes.
very busy child. Look at everything. I'm like, how do you fit this all in? You're going to be a great mom because you're just
But it's not just that, because I've known Kate, because our kids have gone through, just and I can say not only academically and athletically, but as a friend. She is a really great friend. She's very kind and considerate. So, she's got all the bases covered.
I'm so flattered.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's great. So that
And
is a
that's
true testament to
To mom
you
and
too.
dad. I know, it's kudos to you.
You
have
can't
something to
forget
do
that
with
you
it.
have a brother that's
Yes.
gone
That's
through
right.
the school, and
Yep.
he is at
Ohio
Ohio
State.
State.
Yeah.
and he's doing great.
Yes.
He was at a football game recently. He came over and talked to me.
Oh,
Told me
yeah,
how
yeah.
he's doing, yeah.
Yeah, that's
all,
nice.
All three of their kids,
Yeah.
amazing kids.
Yes.
So Erin, we'll see you here in a couple of years. Well, that's great, and thank you for coming out tonight and
Of
having
course.
the
Thank you
delay.
so much.
Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Oh.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you again for
Bye.
coming.
Take care.
Okay, great.
That's always so nice. I like these.
Have fun at the game. Enjoy it.
But again, just the top 5, the information that you provided in there, it just is it's really heartwarming to see how well the kids do.
We have a lot of great kids, but excellent choice.
She has it
And
right
ju-
on another page. I think.
Yeah, it was Henry Feretto too. That was the,
Yeah, Henry was in here today.
yes. Okay, so we're gonna move along. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and listening to this. So we're gonna move on and we're gonna do a presentation from the Start School Later committee. So let me just get my packet out. So if you guys wanna come on up, we can move some chairs up. Sure. What do you mean? No?
They're comfy.
Are you
I
guys
think.
nervous? Mark will come up. Where is my?
Mark will come up.
We won't bite.
Okay, hold on, I just wanna find my packet. I had something written on
I
mine.
can't help you with that
Huh?
one. I can't help you with that one.
Here, see, come on, Suzanne.
Me?
Other side of
If
the-
nobody else will join you, you
Oh,
have
come
to.
on, somebody step up.
There's so many of us.
How much
Please,
appreciate
meet us. They're all gonna be in the picture. We're all here.
Yeah, we're all right here, we don't need to get any closer.
They don't bite, they're actually really nice people.
Okay. They're nice people.
Big button on there.
We all assume positive intention. We offer it.
Okay.
Go back to my. It's you, that's your seat.
I can see it, you're right here. Thanks.
I got your back. You'll all be on TV.
Literally. Yes.
Oh, Barbie, we could have done. Well, it just shows up then.
Okay, so while we're waiting for that to warm up, so we are here this evening. These are the Start School Later Committee members, a lot of them. So thank you guys so much for coming tonight. Before I get into the presentation, I wanna just, first, I wanted to thank the school committee for recognizing the need to appoint a committee to investigate to study a later school start time at Georgetown Middle High School. So back in October of 2015, we had a parent come, that parent was Mr. Weiner, who is here this evening. So he brought that to the school committee, and I really appreciate the fact that the school committee did recognize this to be a need. Second, I want to thank everybody that participated on the committee. They all had active participation, honest dialogue, and a commitment to the entire process. And it was a long process, so it was 2 years. It was a busy few years, but we believe we are providing the school committee with the best recommendation possible at this point in time. So, thank you. So, as you can see, beautiful picture of our high school there. The Start School Later committee members are all in front of you there, and as you can see, we had great participation from parents, administration, school committee. It was a great amount of people that had wonderful input.
Was also teachers from all grade levels that
Yes.
participated as well. So we had Pembroke, not sure, middle school as well as high school. So it was very well represented.
So the timeline that is in front of you is just basically the timeline of what we did over the last 2 years, from the very beginning of when we were approached by a parent to look at the possibility of changing the start time, and then back in October of 2015 when we actually began the process of meeting pretty much monthly. Would you all agree? It was pretty much monthly at the very beginning. So back in December of 2015, we started a local chapter with Start School Later. We also established a Facebook page. That Facebook page would provide information that was going on around the country and also within Massachusetts as to how other districts were dealing with similar problems. We met with union leadership, we met with the athletic directors, the music department, after-school program director, and school staff. Back in May of 2016, we conducted a community forum that the PTA partnered with us on, which was wonderful of them to do. We then administered our first survey that went out to the school community, staff, students. We published those survey results. We attended several presentations from Dr. Judith Owens. We also, along myself and the superintendent, attended the MASC conference last October or November. We were panelists on a discussion surrounding the topic of a later school start time. November 2016, the committee established subcommittees that addressed the different challenges that we felt needed further investigation. Then the superintendent, Suzanne, and I also met again with staff at both schools. We then had Dr. Judith Owens come to the Georgetown community back in March of this year, and that was also televised on GCTV for people that could not attend. Community forum, April of 2017. Then we distributed a second survey, again to staff, parents, and students in the spring. In June, we met as a committee to review the survey results, and at that point in time, we decided that we knew how this was going to work in our particular community. So at that point, we decided that we would make the final recommendation to the school committee, but before I get into that, we will just, oh, how can that look so different? Okay. That looks prettier than that. Let me just get mine out there.
So you want me to talk about this?
Sure.
All right. So we had, we came up with a couple of different schedule changes that we were proposing. We would, as current Pembroke right now is 8:40 to 2:45, and we were proposing to change it 8:55 to 3 o'clock, so it was about a 15-minute difference. The current Georgetown Middle High School schedule 7:30 to 2:15, and our proposed change was 7:55 to 2:40. Although the Judith Owens and the panel suggests that anything after 8 o'clock was
Well, I think
recommended.
the idea was 8:30 or after, but any change they felt
any
was
change.
positive.
Right. So even starting at 7:55 was still positive. We also researched sort of maybe flipping the schedule so that Pembroke would start early at 7:30 and be out at 1:30. But it wouldn't have would have alleviated the transportation issues, but the biggest concern that we had was the elementary age children waiting really early for the school bus. Plus many of the high school kids, middle high school kids were babysitters to these kids, so there were just a few conditions that just didn't work for flipping.
That's how that one looks.
Oh.
So funny. So the spring of 2017 survey, we asked Georgetown Middle High School students which schedule they preferred. 66% strongly or somewhat preferred the current schedule, the 7:30 to 2:15. 25% strongly or somewhat preferred the proposed change, which was 7:55 to 2:40 p.m. Out of the 267 Georgetown Middle High School parents that responded to the survey, 43% strongly supported or supported the change, while 44 strongly opposed or opposed the change. So it was pretty, it was pretty split on that. 52% of Pembroke students preferred the current middle high school schedule, with 35 preferring a change. 67% of Pembroke parents strongly opposed or opposed this change. 68% of Pembroke staff would like no changes at either schools, and 67% of middle high school staff would like no changes at either schools. So after the committee looked at these survey results, we did feel that we did not have the support to move forward with a change, mostly from the students that it was going to impact, as well as the parents and staff. Do you want to go to the next one?
Sure. Okay. We also were very mindful about the budget and how it would affect our district. So, was trying to get another school bus, but we realized that was it was too much and it was out of the question. Also, the fact that the principal, Lucia, did not want to affect any of the academics with the schedule. So we weren't in support of pulling the athletes out early so that they could make their games if they had to have an away game, especially if it was like Rockport.
Right. So early on, I think the committee will all agree with me on that early on we talked about the difficult budget situation that we were in, and we, in the very beginning stages, we all agreed that this change could not impact the budget at all. Do you agree with that? And Principal Lucia was very adamant about the time on learning not being impacted, and we also agreed with him on that. We did have to look carefully at the before and after school care that people would need if the change were to go into effect. we needed to be mindful of the additional children that this could bring in, and also we had to be mindful of the building to see if there was enough space. It's a brand new school over at Pembroke, but they have a lot going on there after school with the already existing before and after school programs. But as far as the classrooms being, the classrooms would not be able to be utilized because the teachers are still in their classrooms for 30 minutes after the children get dismissed. So that was a big issue too, as to where these children would go. Transportation is definitely the biggest challenge that we faced with this change. The typical bus run for a Pembroke student is 45 minutes in length, where the average time for Georgetown Middle High School students is 30 minutes. The morning schedule was not the issue at all, but the after-school dismissal time did conflict. With a dismissal time of 2:40 and a dismissal time of 3 p.m., the buses would not be able to arrive at Pembroke until at least 3:10, and that's realistically it would be more like 3:15, and possibly even later. So that was an issue too, as to where those bus students would go from 3 o'clock until 3:15 or 3:20. It doesn't sound like a long time, but we're talking about 200 children ranging in age from kindergarten up to 6th grade. So we would need to hire additional staff to make sure that those children are taken care of, and also try and figure out where we could place those children for that 15 to 20 minute period. We had asked the superintendent to provide us with the amount of money that would cost to add the additional staff members, and it was between $10,000 and $13,000. So that right there was, it was evident to us that in the early stages, when we talked about no budget impact at all, that this right there would be a major budget impact.
So then we talked about the athletics, and originally we thought it might be an issue, but it turned out that it really wasn't, because we would be able to start, typically our games start at 3:45, our kids get out, they leave the bus at 2:30, games start at 3:45, but we would have starting games around 4, and it wouldn't impact it that much. And we were also thinking of other communities that might not have lights, that, where the days are getting shorter, the lights would have to be turned on, but it was not going to be a factor at all. So we agreed that the athletics should not be, it wasn't really a factor when we were determining the start school.
Right, in the very beginning, it was definitely considered a challenge, along with the transportation. But we were happy to see that the schedule could have been manipulated. But I don't want to say easy, but it was
15
manageable.
minutes.
It was
Yeah.
manageable, and the 3:45 change to a 4 o'clock start wasn't as significant of a challenge as we originally thought. MIAA was also very.
Well, they were supportive.
They were supportive, and our athletic director also reached out to them in terms of the schedule timeframe, if this did actually go into effect in 2018, 2019, and they were able to say that yes, the times could be manipulated.
And can I just ask
Sure.
a question? Is that because other districts have the lights? Most every district has lights already, or is that just because?
No, actually, we found, Pam, that very few of the games would have been impacted, because like today, for instance, is the last soccer game for the fall.
Right.
So it wasn't really a big deal as far as the lights. It was more that the other districts would have accommodated us with that 15-minute change.
They just, okay.
They would have to agree
They would
upon
have
it.
been right.
Yeah, they would have been willing.
But there was general willingness expressed. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't go out to each individual district, but we discussed it with MIAA as well as our athletic director, and he did not feel that would have been an issue. Right now, the only district that is actively moving forward with the 2018-2019 change is Masco. So the other communities that we compete with are not, they're
Not there yet.
they're not there yet.
But maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the two biggest challenges in Georgetown was the fact that we had to change the elementary school day. In the very beginning, we never really thought that that was going to be a necessity. We really thought that we could leave that alone, but as we got further into it, things kept popping up, like, what about this, what about that? And it was really a lot of different things that in the very beginning we really didn't think of. Which is why most districts do take between 2 to 3 years to do this, because there are so many different things that come up. Before and after school care was another concern. Could we accommodate those additional students? Transportation issues forced the committee's research to make the change in the Pembroke schedule, just because we didn't have enough money, obviously, in the budget to get additional buses.
And it
we
really-
knew we had to work with the ones that we currently had.
And it boiled down to, if we did have an additional bus, then this would have all been taken care of, you know, because that's really what it boiled down to.
So the final recommendation back in June 19th of this year, the Start School Later Committee, we met, we reviewed the survey results. We discussed the budgetary impact due to the cost of hiring the paraprofessionals to care for the bus students at Pembroke. And at that point in time, the committee, a motion was made to keep the current schedules to both Georgetown Middle High School and Pembroke School, as well as Pearly School at this time with a unanimous vote. So that is the recommendation that we are pushing forward to you, the school committee, because we do know that you would be the final vote in terms of a change in the timeframe. And again, we thank you for putting this group together. I really appreciated all the time that this committee put in for this, because it was, like I had said, it was a monthly meeting that it was very well attended. I appreciated all the dialogue that happened. Everything was respectful, and we all had different opinions on a lot of things, but it was, I don't think we could have picked a better group of people to come up with this recommendation.
And I also, I mean, sitting on this side, I want to thank all you guys. And I'm speaking for others, which I shouldn't be. I got to watch from arm's length for 2 years, as you guys did in an unbelievable amount of work, inventorying so many aspects of the district and seeing what was possible. I think you're identifying sort of the deal breakers is the wrong word, but kind of the big conditions, time on learning, budgetary impacts on the athletics. I think that was a critical first step, and identifying them and sticking to them through the end, and not saying, well, it's a minor budgetary impact and that's fine and we'll figure it out, or time on learning, oh, Peter can lose a couple minutes here and there, it's not a big deal. I think staying true to those sort of
Tried that, but
I think staying true to those sort of conditions, I think speaks a lot to it. And I know there were some challenging meetings and conversations that you had, and I give you all a lot of credit for the time and the energy and the effort and seeing it through.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I would just echo that. I'm very, very impressed with the thoroughness and, the amount of time and research and playing with the different variables and, just figuring out what's really critical. Because I do believe the research. I mean, I do believe that it would be of benefit to particularly our adolescents to start school later. It's awfully early, that 7:30. I've lived with it for a long time, and I wish we had $60,000 for another bus, because I also understand the Pembroke and the staff, and I think you know, with the survey, the community is not ready for it at this time, but they might feel differently if Pembroke can be completely left alone, you know? So I wish things were different, but I really I'm very impressed with all the work and effort and time you put into this, and I appreciate it, because I know it's all for the good of our students, all for the good of our children, and that it just says a lot about you guys.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say that I have learned so much through the work that you've done, because early on, when this sort of came up, I had no idea really what starting school later, what does this mean, and then as we listened to the research and saw Judith Owen speak and understood the health impacts on children, so that was certainly a learning curve for me. And then listening to the community and how they felt at this time, I really enjoyed the process. And thank you all for doing all the work that you did. So.
I think we were always mindful of the different stakeholders. We understood that the community, the parents, the staff, the students, we knew that it wasn't just one group of people that we needed to get that buy-in from. We know that as a community, we all feel so fortunate to live in Georgetown. I know that we have a tremendous amount of supportive parents, and it wasn't something that we never wanted to make this be a divide in our community. We did not want people to think that, we were going to, put these surveys out, and the information that we get back, we were just gonna, look at it, but not really take into account what people are saying. So the committee was always interested in all the stakeholders, whether it be the staff, whether it would be the students, whether it be the community. And I appreciated the fact that the community came out and told us how they felt. It was definitely an eye-opening experience, I think, for me. I'm sure people here can say the same thing. I'm happy that it happened. I'm happy again that the committee thought that it was necessary. And right now, we feel the community is not ready, and our budget just couldn't handle it. So.
It's not to say that this won't happen in the future. It could certainly be brought up again, but at this moment, we have to listen to what the community wants.
Does anyone want to add anything?
I just wanted to say one thing. It wasn't also, when we were dealing with the bus issue, it wasn't also just the budgetary. When we met with the bus people, they said they couldn't even guarantee they'd even be able to issue us another bus due to their own constraints with employees and everything. So it would have even gone further to me even was looking for a different bus company. So we did a lot of research when we were doing it, and it was more than just the budget at times that was stopping us.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so I think you guys need to make a motion.
Yeah,
Is there a motion?
Oh, to accept and approve the recommendation.
Yeah, you can do that.
Make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Start School Later Committee to maintain the current start times for both schools.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys again for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
I like the process.
Yeah, it's dancing above.
It wasn't dancing on my copy. Thank you guys. See you tomorrow.
See ya.
The same.
Margaret, you can go too. You can go not gonna make you stay. You go ahead. Freaking go.
Education for everybody.
It was.
Everybody's a lot smarter now
It was a good one.
about
That's right. Mark, thank you.
See ya.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
We still have other stuff, Mark, if you wanna stay.
No, I'm good.
I'm good. Sure. That was great. Very nicely done.
Everybody's leaving.
I let
Was it,
Margaret go.
was it something we
Poor
said?
It's nothing they said.
Except
Tom
our
is here.
faithful
Tom is
Tom
here.
Stewart.
Tom's here.
Bye, Margaret. Margaret.
All right.
Nice to still have somebody in the audience.
It was hard going after Miss Kate Irons,
I
know.
Right? You did very well. Very good.
Okay, so now we have the financial report to go over, right?
One's his, one more. Before you do that, Barbie, does anybody have any question on the data clerk job description?
Oh,
I noticed
I
that's-
did go by.
Yeah,
that.
you know what, I think it's probably the wrong place, it probably should have been up in my stuff.
The
But-
data clerk position?
Yeah, I just wanna make sure everybody understands what we're doing there and why we're doing it. I tried to write a little bit about it in the orange notes.
Yes.
And then we talked this morning, in budget and finance about it.
I think what's important, Superintendent, just, I know we talked about it this
Yeah.
morning, was how, if you could talk a little bit about the money. So it was a position that we had that did not get renewed.
Right, yeah, right, we didn't choose to fill that position this
Correct.
year. And our plan was originally our plan was to put that position in the library because our goal was to try to, we thought we were going to take the librarian at the middle high school and have him help us much more with our data, our state reporting. But for some, personal reasons, he's not able to do that. So we sort of said, well, then that resource that would be pretty much there in the library to basically be doing data entry as well as sort of supervising the kids in the library. Mr. Swaim, the librarian, originally when we put that aide in there, is because we were using him as one of our technology people that went around and actually helped solve problems for teachers. So we didn't want the library to be closed. So the only way we could really avoid that would be to put a resource person in there so that a library could be open and he could be free to go wherever it was he had to go. When Wes left, we restructured, as you remember, the technology, and we hired Ben Rubino. So Ben, is a boots on the ground guy, so we didn't need Paul in quite the same way. So, again, we were looking at him in terms of state reporting, because he already has picked up some additional responsibilities regarding the portal, the parent portal. He does do some of the Rediker information for the middle high school. But the state reports has become a bear in and of itself. It's just, when we had Mary Ellen come in for 2 days a week, was one thing, but now it's just exponentially, exploded in terms of what needs to be done and the number of data fields and SIF compliance and all kinds of things.
So it's gotten more complicated, it's gotten
It
more
has.
onerous than it
It
was
has.
before.
So, of course, we knew we didn't have the budget to say, okay, well, we need this position, so let's, come and make a recommendation to the school committee to fund a position. We first said, well, what do we have in the budget? And so we did have that aides position that we hadn't filled yet. And in talking with Paul and the technology department, they all agreed that if Barry Belanger was gonna continue to be working on that under Colin's direction, that resource would go to that side of the technology department, which meant that Paul understood he would not be getting an assistant for his library, and he was fine with that. Paul will have a role in state reporting, but he will not be the person who sort of takes it on, the overseeing. This person is gonna be a clerk, so they're gonna be doing data entry, they're gonna be keeping track. The only thing they're gonna do is look at data, right? So if they'll make sure that if there's any questions or concerns that come up, like Barry copies me on everything he does now when he talks to the state. And there's just a lot of stuff that, he's having to go back and and solve that problem, but Barry's also the guy who does all the technology at Pembroke, he does our transportation, I mean, he does a number of things, and it's just really become a very difficult job for him to take on as a whole. So we're thinking that this position would be a redirection of money we already had in the budget, although we do admit we will have to add a little bit more, because we're talking about a position that would be 220 days, because many state reports are due in the summer. We're thinking that we don't think this person will have any extra time, but if they have any extra time, they could help pull out some of the reports from MCAS. So when the department heads, for example, we want to have them looking at the results of the kids in the 8th grade. Rather than Colin having to be the one who goes in, grabs the reports and gets them to them, this person would be available to be able to get the information out to people, I think, in a timely, more efficient way. So does that help, Barbie? Is that what you were hoping I was
Yes,
gonna
yeah.
say? Okay.
Just in case they had some
Yeah.
questions about the
Right.
money aspect of it.
Right. I'm glad you pointed that out. So since the school committee, since it's technically a new job, really, we've never had a data clerk before, school committee would approve any new jobs. So that's why I'm bringing it to you, and
So this person would report to Colin?
Colin, yeah, reports to Colin. And would be based at Pembroke. Barry has an office on the 3rd floor off of the computer lab. And then there's also another space, apparently, that they have a little workshop down near the machine room or something. I know they tell me all that stuff, and wherever you think it's the best place is, fine with me. But the goal would be, if the person's working on state reports and then Barry needs to sort of jump into the conversation, to having them in a closer proximity as opposed to having them, let's say, at the central office, because we do have the space upstairs in Pearlie, we could certainly put them there, but for ease of access, we just thought it made sense to go to Pembroke.
Does anyone have any questions about it?
So where is the little bit of extra money coming from?
We will find that in the budget. We'll have to,
We're not
it'll probably
sure.
come from a salary line, I'm sure, a
Okay.
salary adjustment line. But, right, that's a fair question. We haven't identified that yet. I mean, Suzanne will do the first quarter report in November 6th or November 9th. So, you'll be able to see where the lines are. If we have to make a transfer, we'll be talking about it with budget and finance, exactly where we wanna move it to. And actually, because we're already into the year, some of that money,
You get to save a quarter.
we saved a quarter, basically, so I think it's gonna work out this year, but it's really a matter of, for the future.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the job description for a data clerk as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then just, if you have any questions about this, advertising on the field, Mike and Ryan are very excited about that. They sent out 350 letters.
Good.
And, Mike sent me a screenshot the other night saying, we've got our first one, so, so they're very excited about it, and, I hope it turns out, because that has the potential to raise some pretty significant money,
It does.
so.
Which will be
I
great
really
for the
appreciate
athletic
them,
account.
like, that was in the athletic action plan, and they just really took it and ran with it, so, appreciate that.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now we can do the financial report.
Financial. Do we have the one that I have to sign, or?
I don't think we have a one that's already started.
Yeah, you can probably just
You
start
can
it,
just
Barbie.
sign yours and I can sign it, Carol.
So it's, okay. Does anyone have any questions on it before I make a motion? Long-term subs, I did actually have one. So the long-term sub line,
Mm-hmm.
can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, that had, from what we had originally budgeted, it was, had gone over. Apparently, we have several right
We
now.
always seem to go over that
We
line.
always seem to
I
go
know,
over.
it's a tough one because we don't know sometimes.
It's
I
hard to
know.
predict,
And
But
that,
it-
it was
oh.
just moving it from short-term to long-term.
Long
Yep.
term.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
basically.
yeah, still a sub-line.
Yeah, I
Right.
moved it from the subline.
But for during the budget process, should we start to up that ante?
I did do that last year, but
Yeah,
then
we
I think
did.
we had to
Take
pull it
some
back
from
a little
it,
bit.
yeah.
Yep, because I tried to make it more,
I think
Mhm.
every year that I've been on, we budget more and
And
spend
take away.
more.
Yeah.
yeah.
And overspend.
And we
Yeah.
have several people out right now.
We do.
Mm, okay.
Well,
And
we
I
have
think
a-
we have
we have
a
a number
couple
of
more anticipating too.
Maternities.
So,
Yeah.
and then we have, we have a custodian, but he's coming out of a different line. So,
Right.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve line item transfers numbers 49 to 83 as presented.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And, do we wanna talk about the CPAC gift fund?
Yes.
Okay, so this was an interesting advisory to
Yes,
receive, but I completely understand why it is, as it is, as it should be.
yep,
Um,
apparently been around for
mhm.
a while.
Do you want to come and discuss this, or?
Sure.
Okay. I wasn't sure I was on tonight or not, so.
Sure.
We're always happy to have you up here.
And I
Um,
believe-
Yeah, I'm Tom Stewart, the chair of the CPAC. So I was doing some research with regard to event insurance, because we're having the Trick or Trunk event. And I chatted with MassPAC, and also I've been in contact with a law firm, pro bono law firm, because we were looking at forming a 501c3. And they advised me the same thing, that actually we are legally part of the school district. So they advised me to make sure the town knows that we should be on their insurance. So we met, and Carol did all the legwork with that, and so all that got resolved. So Carol raised the question, well, what about donations, because the school committee approves donations, and so I contacted MassPAC, and I got the advisory you have. We met and went over it. So it seems that, you know, perhaps there are rules that no one was aware of. You know, and it's not anyone's fault. I kind of have a feeling that maybe because the CPAC was so low-key under the radar, not really dealing
Like
with,
a fundraising.
dealing with much
Right, and
money.
they didn't
No.
release the raise funds,
Correct.
they
There was
just a
just
bulbs.
one small fundraiser a year, and now you're doing a lot more, so.
Yeah, so now we're, you know, it's, we're trying to generate some more revenue and create some new things for the special ed kids and families. And so, you know, we have some rules we have to follow. So, that's kind of where we're at. I think we're gonna have to have a meeting.
Right.
We, you know, I worked in nonprofits for over 20 years, and I'm a child and family therapist, and so I've seen a lot of people burn out in volunteer things in nonprofits. So after the Trick or Trunk event, I really was encouraging Chantel to, you know, take a little vacation. So I kind of let everyone know that she's getting a little time off, just because I don't, you know, something we did that last year with Jen Bergie. I said, Jen, take a vacation, you know, after she ran the Trick or Trunk. So, so we haven't had a meeting in a few weeks, so I think we kind of need to have a meeting to figure out how we're gonna make this all work. everyone's in agreement, there's no disagreement here, that we just gotta, kinda make it happen.
Okay,
That sound
so,
like a good briefing?
perfect.
So we just need the school committee to approve the gift fund so that we can start accepting the donations and putting them in there.
Right.
So what does happen, I believe it was Michael that sent me the email, right, in terms of when you get donations? Are we gonna have to approve all those
Yep.
donations?
Yes,
So-
you do.
So, in,
Just like any other donations that we
They're
get.
public.
okay, so,
Would an event like Trick or Trunk, where there were 100 different people donating, we wouldn't be individually accepting each?
No,
$20
it would probably
check, it
just
would just
be
be
from the
the
trick or trunk
proceeds.
event.
Okay.
Proceeds, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to individually accept each,
No.
could be a little
You would be
tedious for you
accepting the
folks, but.
donation, right?
Yeah.
how did you do on the trick or trunk?
Good. This year we made over $3,000.
Great.
Last year was around 1,500.
Wow, that's great.
And
It was good, it was a good event.
yeah, and that
Fabulous.
when we started, when I became the chair, we had like $2,100, and that's all we had. It's not a lot of money. And so we've raised more money, and the thing that's unique about the CPAC is, so we're kind of legally part of the school district, but we have our own set of bylaws. And that's required by law. So we're the same, but we're separate. And so we govern ourselves to a certain degree, but we also are part of the school district. So it's a little confusing, I think. But we've pretty much doubled our budget, so we're gonna have to vote on what we're gonna do with the money. Money we had around $3,000, and so now we have $6,000,
And so before this, you just had it in an account? You just had it like at a local bank under, like,
so that's a story unto itself. When Chantel became the treasurer and Diane Newton was the previous treasurer, what happened was they went down to the bank, and the discovery was that the person who technically owned the account did not even live in Georgetown anymore. And so
track that person down, right?
well, the bank actually advised that the account could be closed and then it could be reopened. So that's what we did, in a nutshell.
So then you're gonna close that account, and then you're gonna form this account with you?
They have to, everything has to
Well,
come
just
through us.
everything has
Yeah,
to
with
be
the town.
deposited with the town.
Okay.
And so that we do need to get together and really go over it. And so I said to Suzanne
Yeah.
today, we agreed that for the benefit of the discussion, what we would do is we'd literally do just a sheet that basically says, for fundraisers, you have to do this, 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 this. So like Tom,
we already have
when the
policies in
CPAC
place.
group gets together, they can say, all right, we wanna do a fundraiser, okay, this is what we have to do. Like, first we have to go here, then we have to do this, then we have to do this. So there's no misunderstanding about what the tasks need to be.
Sure.
So I think that would be useful, because
Mhm.
this is new to the CPAC. So like, for example, we certainly wanna work with the CPAC as to how they wanna spend the money, but technically, any donations that come in to the school committee by policy are the school committee's decision as to how to spend them. Now, having said that, anytime somebody makes a donation and says, I want it to go to this committee, every committee that I've worked with in
Right.
Georgetown has always said, fine, as long as it's in the donation account or the gift account. You know, if they wanna have money that goes for scholarships for special ed kids, or they wanna purchase new chairs for the library, you know, there would be I don't anticipate there being any issue with that.
Mhm.
But it does need to come through the school district, and we have to have that conversation, right? So that's the stuff we have to talk about, like
And the
what are the,
purchasing, too.
because technically, right now, CPAC functions like the other groups do as a 501c3. But they really can't.
Yeah, we cannot be a 501c3.
Yeah.
We can form a 501c3 that's separate,
Yes.
that's
Right.
not the CPAC. We can do that,
Right.
but the CPAC itself cannot be a 501c3.
501c3.
That's
Right.
that's illegal.
Okay.
Um,
Exactly.
Well, so as of now, are you using any funds for some of your speaker series, or?
No, all our speakers, coming free of charge. We did have a conversation of having a travel stipend for some of the speakers, specifically for the Struggling Readers series, because, you know, they're some of the world's best researchers in reading and dyslexia. But I spoke to Dr. Nadine Gab. This summer I was in the State House for 2 different events being held for the dyslexia screening, that in Massachusetts is 4 different bills that every child be screened for dyslexia. And I just had a little sidebar with her, and she said, you know, well, I'll come for free, and so then.
Okay, so how many times, I remember you telling us, but how many times will they be coming?
3, wasn't it?
There's 3 different speakers. I had 4, but there was a teaching schedule conflict, so.
So what we would do is we would talk with the CPAC about what specific lines, because they've got to, just like all of other people have to spend out of certain lines, right? So setting up the account and being specific, so they have I think they have a pretty good idea of the kinds of things they're anticipating spending money. Like there could be a supply line, there could be a travel line, there could be, and we just don't know if we can do scholarships. That we're researching that. We didn't know if that, something with, today Suzanne and Julie were talking about
I think it has
something
to
on
do
the
more-
listserv.
Yeah, I think
that
it's
was-
more just student activity
that,
accounts.
that was going around,
than
but it
gift
might be
accounts.
fine, but we just need to finish researching, and we know it's student activity accounts can't be.
Does
So we-
CPAC usually give a?
Yeah, they usually
You
give
had mentioned
Well,
scholarships.
the CPAC used to do that, and I'm not sure when it stopped. I'm not sure, did you give scholarships out when you were, no?
No, I
So
don't
it's
think so.
before, predated PM, so that's, she's
long
two
time ago.
CPAC chairs ago. So,
Okay.
so there used to be scholarships, and I was trying to get that going again.
The Shining Star, for example, you
Yeah,
Yeah, we've
give
got
them
that
awards,
going
and
again.
They got that going again, so like, for example, if that would be in a supply line.
Sure.
So they'll be in a position to take a look and say, all right, where do we anticipate the money? We're gonna need money.
Cause you approve a budget, you have a budget.
Right, we had a
Right.
very simple budget we approved,
Mhm,
because
yeah.
one of the members said, well, what are we raising money for, and what are we doing with the money? And I said, well, that's a great question. So we all had a subcommittee, and we made a recommendation, and so the CPAC, voted on the budget. And now we have more money, and so, we were hoping to revise that budget. So we shared that with the district. It's a very simple budget. I'm sure your budget's not written out the same way as ours.
Well, but we're gonna come to,
But there'll be line items.
yeah,
I mean,
there'll be line items. And they have to do, since they're open, they are subject to the open meeting law, just like you are, so they have to have minutes, they have to post their agendas.
we do that. We post our agendas at the town hall through the clerk. We've been doing that. A couple
We're gonna
times
post them on our website?
we missed. breaks.
We can certainly put them on our website if that's necessary. Yeah. We could certainly, on our calendar, we should definitely say, what the events are that
Yeah,
you're running.
that'd be
for
great,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve the creation of a gift account for the CPAC as presented by Suzanne Sutherland.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Okay,
right.
great. It'll be good doing
So
business
then
with
we
you.
will have a meeting set up then, yes.
Great, yeah, we'll set the meeting next couple weeks. Cool.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Tom.
welcome.
Yep, thank you.
I just have to say, it's been great doing this with all the families. The CPAC families have been fabulous.
Oh, good.
So,
I'm
yeah.
sure they appreciate what
Great.
you guys
So-
have been doing as well.
So it's been a very positive experience. Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Good.
bye, Tom.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
And just while you're here, on November 6th, you have another CPAC meeting presentation.
Yeah, Jeff Dreyer is a neuropsychologist. He actually, part of the time works the same office as Joe Moldova does. He presented last year, and he's going to do a presentation on autism.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Autism spectrum disorder diagnosis,
This-
evaluation, and treatment.
There's been some changes in the autism diagnosis, and so he's gonna, he's going to discuss some of those changes, and hopefully get everyone up to speed.
Oh, is that
Great.
something that you have to pay for, or is that also free?
No, all our workshops, everyone's coming pro bono. We actually have, we had to reschedule our basic rights. As an educational advocate, her daughter had a field hockey accident and ended up at Mass General
Oh,
with a concussion and some other injuries. So that's been rescheduled. I have to send that to you guys. I think it's in January. So she's coming twice this year. The neuropsychologist we have is coming and doing the presentation on autism. We have 3 different attorneys. We had one last night come and do a workshop on transition. And then we have the 3 presenters, Dr. Gobb, Dr. Orkin, and Tiffany Hogan, Dr. Hogan on the Struggling Readers series. So I think our workshop series is one of the best workshop series in Massachusetts, I believe.
yes.
Because we have very quality, top quality presenters. I was talking to Bob Bruno, the headmaster at Landmark, about who we had coming this year, and he said, boy, you get the heavy hitters coming. They're very well-known and respected people in the profession, so.
And we're letting people in the area know about these workshops, Tom? Are
Right.
people in the other districts able to come?
So I've emailed many CPACs.
Okay.
So many I've lost track.
Okay,
So it's out there.
so it's out there, okay.
Yeah, it's out there.
Tom, off the top of your head, do you know, what's the dates for those,
So I'll have to come back with my
Okay,
schedule.
I-
Pam,
I-
does
I
Pam
have
have my
it.
schedule?
Okay, fine, I can get a
Alright.
copy from Pam.
Do you wanna go
Sure,
through
I'd
the
be happy
schedule?
to
You can go
take
through.
a copy, but the autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, evaluation, and treatment
Oh, actually, I
is
do have it here.
Monday, November 6th at 6:45 at the Georgetown Peabody Library. But then, so the Struggling Readers series, also in November is the Neuroscience of Reading. This is with Dr. Nadine Gabb, and that's on the 29th of November at 6:45 at the Georgetown Peabody Library.
Just say something about her.
Yes.
Her research is just unprecedented. She can do, believe it or not, a brain scan on a 9-month-old and tell you whether or not they're dyslexic.
Wow.
Much of the legislation throughout the country is based upon her research. The legislation being that all kids be screened for dyslexia. So she's just does amazing work.
That's great that she's coming here.
Yeah,
It's gonna be very, very interesting.
She also does presentations for neuroscientists, and maybe some of you could keep up with that presentation, but she loses me with that one. So.
That's November 29th.
Well, and these, I think, Pam, these dates are all events on Facebook too.
Yeah, they're all
Yes,
there.
and this schedule is also available on Facebook
Right.
and on the CPAC website.
Right.
So just give Suzanne the other 3 days.
That's fine,
2
I can
days.
go on the website.
Okay, let's see, the Struggling Reader Series, there's one on January 10th, which is Effective Solutions for Motivating Struggling Readers, Dr. Melissa Orkin, at also 6:45 at the Georgetown Peabody Library. And, let's see, on February 5th, it'll be Comprehension with Dr. Tiffany Hogan, that you mentioned, 6:45, Georgetown Peabody Library.
I believe we rescheduled basic rights for Tuesday, January 23rd at the library. I have to revise the schedule and get that out to you folks.
Okay, so that was a meeting and social gathering, but it will now be a basic rights.
Right.
Okay.
And then we have Beyond Basic Rights with an attorney, Daniel Perlman. I asked him, one of the parents asked me to book him for Basic Rights. He said, I'd rather do Beyond Basic Rights. So I said, okay, let me see what I can do. And so that's what we have, March 7th, with speech pathologists presenting in Georgetown Thursday the 29th at the Pembroke School.
That's our own school speech pathologists.
Right,
Yes.
and Tim Sindel, an attorney, is presenting April 9th, at the library at 6:45, summer services and compensatory services, advocating for your child. And then Laura Collins is, she's the one who's presenting. The Basic Rights is doing the one on preparing a solid case. That's on May 2nd.
All right.
We'll finish the year again at the Jeff and Maria's with a Shining Star Awards on an election on June 27th. So,
Great.
and I'll get you guys an updated schedule with the
That would be great.
Basic Rights.
Thank you, Tom. Awesome.
Thank you all very much. Looking forward to a great year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Us too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again.
Could we, sort of in light of the CPAC realization and making sure that we're doing things the right way, can we sort of do an inventory of other parent organization, community groups that might or should go through the district that aren't, just to make sure that we're,
Sure.
if we're fixing an issue, make sure that we get it all the way.
Yeah. There are no others
I was
that are
just gonna say
legally
such
required
as.
through statute, but we can definitely.
Just to double check.
Yep.
And I guess
Other
the realization or discussion about insurance, I totally get, but also if Boosters is holding an event,
Yep.
do they fall under town insurance? Or should they be getting private
I
event
would
insurance?
think they would have their own.
The
Making sure
town,
that-
when I called to Tom's request on whether or not CPAC was under the, they said no.
They said no.
They said no, that
no.
CPAC was not?
No, they said CPAC wasn't, but every time we call and we ask about like senior celebration or any of those kind of things, the answer is no. PTA has their own insurance, they're not covered, you know, the separate organizations.
Can we make sure that the entities that should have coverage, we should require it if they're using our facilities?
Well, I think that should be part of our use.
I think it's on the form. I just wanna make sure that we actually.
But like the partners in football you're talking about possibly,
Yeah.
or,
Any of
like,
these,
do they have,
any,
I know, I would doubt.
for lack of
they
a
have
better
insurance.
word, any friends of
should
groups.
have them. It should have it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
let us look
special
into
event
that.
insurance is a couple $100. It's not
Mhm.
a huge
it's not.
expense,
Yeah, it's not
but
expensive.
they should have it
actually,
before.
just let you know, I actually started trying to find special event insurance, and it's a little more complicated than you might think.
Okay, we'll
Um,
put that on our list.
And I had one provider, one carrier that would,
I don't think there's any.
and we had a rain date, for the next day, so if we rained out, we'd have to buy it again. Right? It was very specific. So I talked to a number of insurance companies, and it's a little bit of work, so.
And I wholeheartedly agree, but if it's gotta be done, it's gotta be done.
Absolutely.
And we need to make sure that the organizations that
Have
should
it.
be
Share
getting
it.
it actually have it.
Yeah,
And I've got a good special event insurance.
I don't mean to keep going on, but Trick or Trunk event was
Should be
great.
getting
We had,
certificates of
thank
insurance
you for volunteering.
with the
We
use
had,
of facilities
parking lot
funds.
attendants, we had
The school district.
4
is
parking lot
insured.
attendants, and,
Yes.
we prepared for the max, right?
You also had some great professional police officers
The
there
police
who
officers there, the fire
were
department.
enormously
everyone.
helpful.
Yeah, it was great. It was really just a great event. Went off very well,
to
so.
keep everyone safe. Yes, they did. And everyone had
That's great.
so much fun too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a hoop. And the creativity and, everybody went to with their with their trunk decorating and the costumes. It was just a wonderful, wonderful time.
good.
So thank you.
Okay, we have subcommittee reports. I know at the last meeting we did not, get through to them, so let's try and just go through them if you have something to add. Budget and finance, Michael, do you wanna?
We met this morning, we discussed the data manager position.
CIP.
We discussed the CIP priorities, a little budget planning. I think that was
Yeah.
the gist of it.
Do we have another meeting scheduled?
I think we might.
Yeah, I think we do too,
Yeah, 'cause I
right?
think we
do.
Or,
ordered
yeah,
up-
we scheduled the
we
whole
got a
year,
whole
I
bunch,
Yeah, okay, good.
Or-
I mean,
Okay.
budget priorities, just a reminder, we got some budget priorities from Pam and Cheryl. but if
Yeah, I
anybody
did
else
send
has
Suzanne,
them.
I sent you Suzanne's.
Oh, Suzanne did hers too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, I'll look for that.
Yeah.
So Suzanne.
I didn't send mine because I.
Budget
Yeah,
I
'cause
figure we're gonna talk about
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so we should be good then, because
So
you
I
two are on
see
the
on
committee.
November 21st, we have on the 14th,
November 14th is our next meeting.
that's what I show.
Yeah, that, I think that's true.
So governance, Cheryl and I did meet, and the things that we went over are actually included in here, the new policies. But we should actually set up a meeting so we can talk more about the field trips.
Yeah, I think I sent you guys an email today
Oh,
with
okay.
a couple of dates, so.
Missed that. But
Oh,
I'll
cool.
double check.
It's later.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
and I sent, another one about scheduling
Yeah.
the negotiations one.
So negotiations, you're
We'll be meeting
getting
soon.
ready for that, okay. Public relations, I saw the meeting minutes in here, but did we already have it?
Yeah, we already
update on
went
that?
through this.
Yeah.
We can talk about
Right.
that.
Yeah,
It was
that's just the minutes in there.
Right,
Yep,
so
and I did submit the minutes
previous.
from the governance.
Right, so those will be in the next one.
Next one, right, I saw that email,
It was
yep.
maybe a couple hours late.
Safety,
I think we discussed everything
Yep,
last
we did.
meeting.
okay, start school later, we just had the presentation, superintendent evaluation.
We don't have, I think it got lost with.
We gotta do the goals.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Are you the group,
Suzanne
you guys
and
are
I.
working on the goals, okay,
And-
We sent you suggested
Yes.
goals, right?
Yes,
okay.
but, what?
Did you receive any?
Yes,
Did you? Okay.
but, I think the doodle got lost with Laura being out.
Yeah, okay, so we'll get another meeting.
Doodle.
Clean that up.
We'll get another
We'll
meeting.
redoodle.
Well,
Okay.
I think we just need to do it ourselves because, so I'll send you an email and we sometimes, and
Okay.
maybe we can just do that sooner than later, that'd be great.
Pam, were you on the negotiations committee?
Yes.
So it was you and I that did did you and I do the last teacher's contract? Were we together?
No,
When
I
we
came
talked
in, I
about
came
this-
in at the
Yeah, we
very
did,
end
we did.
for that.
Okay, so we still
can't
can't
because it-
remember?
Maybe it's
went-
Lorraine, I don't know, I don't.
It went beyond.
You'll have to go back and look at the paperwork.
At the
Oh, I
minutes.
can't believe we can't remember this.
I know.
What are we
Wasn't
trying
that
to,
long
what are
ago.
we trying to
Can't
remember?
figure out who was on the committee.
We're
I
trying to
know it was
remember
the school
Barbie.
committee was on
It wasn't me, though, I was there at the very, very end,
Right,
but
well, it wasn't Barbie.
And
it
why
was
was
somebody
that? Why
else.
were you there
Was
at the
it
very,
Suzanne?
very end?
it must
Oh,
have gone
because-
beyond, you know,
because
where
in
we all
May.
changed.
Right.
But
So
May
who
they
did you
changed.
But who did you
replace?
replace?
I'm- Who would I,
Could it have been Laureen?
It was because she stepped off.
yeah, I mean, it could have been.
Okay.
Could have been anybody.
Okay, Michael says it was.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
There you go.
That was bugging
Solve
me.
that mystery.
Okay, and we do have some, the policies that are in your packet.
You know, real fast on, just because we were talking about minutes, there was a DESI advisory regarding minutes that they all need to be approved within
Yeah,
3
I've-
meetings or 30 days, whichever is the latter, for all regular and executive
Executive
session minutes.
sessions.
So
Although with the executive sessions, it's when the matter is dismissed, right?
they need to be approved but not released. So they can be
got it.
approved the next day, but they don't get released until
The matter
whatever
is
the matter is.
finished.
has been
Okay,
resolved.
that's the
I
difference.
did see
Okay.
that with the meeting minutes, yeah.
Can I just go back to the negotiations thing? So, cause I, just for scheduling out my life.
Yes.
I imagine this is going to be starting up soon with the
That's-
teachers.
Yep. Well, the teachers are going to be, apparently the teachers are going to be having a meeting on like the first week in November. Cause Joe said, you know, and after that, we'd be happy to meet, you know?
Right.
Okay.
So we were talking about trying to get a
Kind of a
po-
first.
a process meeting first.
Okay.
And then, in the meantime, I've already sent an email out to the administrators asking them, you know, to make sure that if there's anything they would like to see that's come up for them in the contract that they would like to see, that they, you know, would get that information to me. So we wouldn't, the first meeting would just be process, not strategy, but
Right.
then we'd be prepared for the strategy discussion shortly after that. The union said they'd like to meet before Thanksgiving if we're up for it, at least do ground rules and maybe, if we're all in agreement, the first proposals, but,
So early, mid-November.
yeah.
Okay.
Early November is next week.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I think I gave, Pam,
That's why I slid mid in
Pam, I
there.
think I sent you and Michael out an email today with some,
Did you?
like, I think I
I saw an email,
suggested,
but I don't remember what you said.
I think I suggested if we could do it next Thursday or Friday at like 9:30.
I
I
am at the
haven't.
MASC conference. We'll figure it
Oh,
out.
right, you're the one next
Okay.
week.
We don't need
Good
to do
to
it
know.
now.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Right, so did you have a chance to look at the, changes that we had made? We met with the technology group and we went with their direction on these. It was very helpful for them to review these and then go over what they felt it should have, the changes should have been made.
Yeah, and there weren't a ton of changes.
No, there wasn't
Nope.
anything real substantial.
Nothing.
I had questions on IJNDBR,
Okay.
the accessible use policy. Number one, prohibit non-commercial use of the system or network. Should that be prohibit commercial use of the system or network? What are we prohibiting?
Prohibit
It
non-commercial.
sounds
That's
like
a
we're
very
only
good
allowing
catch.
commercial use
That's a
of
very
our
good
system, which
catch.
seems awkward.
Strange.
Yeah, it does seem like
Yeah,
that
it does.
doesn't make
It's
sense,
like,
does it?
Is that, or supposed to be like non-academic use? Or
No,
so- I don't know.
commercial is the weird word.
Yeah,
Well, you know
something
what?
there.
Yeah, what exactly right.
Well,
It just, what
Prohibits
does it mean by
non-
commercial,
prohibits-
non-commercial?
Prohibits commercial
always-
use of the system.
When I talk to my kids about editing things, I say the first paragraph, the first sentence is
Oh, I didn't
usually
read
there's
past number
something
one.
there.
So prohibit non-commercial,
Look at
so
that.
what would be an example of something non-commercial?
School-related.
Yeah, so that can't be right then, it's
So it
got to
must
be
be
commercial.
commercial
Alright,
use.
so that's a good catch, we'll change that.
And then my next question has to do with your note for number 14, look at records retention. Because we discussed, these look like notes from last year to some degree.
Yeah, because remember, we started
We
that,
said,
remember?
yeah. And I know we said we were gonna look at records retention. Have we, because I know certain things are 3 years, 5 years,
Yeah, Ben
whatever.
talked about it at the meeting.
Do we have that schedule of?
That, we have that
release?
down, I believe we have that down on our list to do next. What, remember, we had one
talked
we
about it
had
too.
left over,
Yeah.
that
Do
we
have
said
a
we were all
schedule in the
gonna,
office.
we were all gonna look at it, and then we were gonna meet and then talk about it, so that will be forthcoming,
Okay,
but we do have the schedule.
okay. Because I know it's all prescribed. It's just a matter of making sure we
It
do
is,
the-
yeah.
do it.
And there were some updates to it too, not
Oh,
too
there were,
long
yeah,
ago.
okay.
Are we? This isn't policy per se, but are we actually archiving and backups? I know we weren't really doing either last year. Are we doing either now?
I would say
know-
that is part of our strategy when we go to Google. So I would say the answer is not to the extent that we would have, should we have purchased a process to do that.
Okay, because that would archive emails, but not student data and like websites, all of the public information stuff. But then backing up, because I know again last year we had some server
Okay,
age questions and
so the question is, are we backing up?
everything that needs to be backed up and record retained.
For the amount of
Okay,
time that it's
so
supposed
not
to.
just
Technically.
email though, that's
Yeah,
what you're saying.
Sort of district wide.
Everything.
Carol,
So
if
just
we
give me a couple of examples like you just said,
Data.
Dad.
Yeah, like student data, like the SIPs and the essentially everything.
Okay,
That does not.
I'll get an answer to that, I don't know the answer right this second.
and I
Yes.
know it's not policy, but will there be any type of, education for the students on digital literacy?
Yes.
You know, what's
Yes.
proper, what's not
Yes.
proper, what about copywriting and so forth? Cause I
Yes.
think it's important that they're educated on what they can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll ask
I'm
where
pretty
we,
sure they
I'll ask
are.
where we, I'll ask
I,
where we
I think
do
it's
that.
important that they, you know, and also I
Can you
think the
give me an
teachers
example of
should.
that? I
So
think
for digital literacy, things like, what can they copy and use?
Right.
Because
Right.
there are certain
right.
things that
Okay.
have
They can't,
copyright, they just can't use anything, they have to cite it.
Sure.
So there needs to be education how to cite certain works.
I'll look at, I'll
And-
ask
and
when I-
there is somewhere. I've
Yeah.
heard
There's
my
also-
kids talk about
Well, I know that
So-
ninth grade required course, I'm sure does it in detail, but even before that, I think that they.
Well, I just took a course on digital literacy,
Yeah,
so it was
it's
really,
fresh in
it
your
was-
mind, yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting, the things that I learned from it. And also to transfer that education to my students, so it's,
Students, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into that, where we educate the students about digital.
Especially where everybody now is gonna be that one-to-one, they just
Yeah,
need to.
yeah.
And then my last question is actually about a policy that's not in this package. The website policy. We started talking about because it's very old.
So, website policy, we did look at that.
We looked at it, but we didn't kind of finish it.
Okay, so we'll look at it
The old
again. I think
governance.
that
The
that
old
was not
governance.
recommended
Okay.
for any changes, but I'll look at what you're,
I would recommend it for changes.
Can I just go back to this acceptable use policy and the number 1 here, the prohibit, which used to say prohibit non-commercial use of the system network. Did you mean prohibit non-academic use of the system network?
Well, that's what
Yeah.
Michael said. It
Academic.
sounds.
well, you don't wanna prohibit that, you wanna.
Well, it said non-academic.
Non-academic, so
Oh,
like, we're not gonna
non.
go off and do Facebook, and we're not gonna have people go and use it for their personal use. It has to be related to school, initiatives.
Well, I know
Work.
Facebook is blocked with our firewall, cause I looked into that.
And
Say,
it's-
use of
it's tricky
system.
because there are academic, because we'd also talked about doing,
Is it like
almost
YouTube?
moving away from
Perhaps
acceptable
we
use
use
and doing
YouTube,
digital
but-
citizenship. YouTube, it definitely works in the schools. How to
Yeah.
use things appropriately, and there are absolutely academic and rigorous academic ways to use Twitter,
Yeah.
for example, and I totally understand why we have a policy wanting to restrict it, but to say that it's not allowed
Yeah.
is
yeah,
is
yeah.
not academically
No,
sound.
No, I agree.
Right, but just to,
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Language,
look,
yeah.
I'm gonna ask about the backup, if everything, not just the email, but all of our major systems. I'm gonna look at where we directly teach digital citizenship, and then I'm gonna have them look at that website policy again. See if there's anything that needs to be
Do
updated
you
or
have
changed.
that written down?
I do.
Okay, good, because because I won't remember the web, I would write it down.
But,
Oh.
but if
So
you
we'll
have
talk
some,
about the website.
if you look at it and you have some suggestions for it,
Okay,
send
yeah,
them our way.
sure.
Because I think we did look at that one, I don't think anybody had anything that sort of stood out to them, so I'm curious,
Yeah.
like I'd like to hear your thoughts
yeah.
on that.
How so when we, and I guess we might have made change, I don't know if we actually made changes or not. When we vote on a policy, how do people know about it, other than it going into a binder that sits on a shelf somewhere?
Or
like-
looking at our minutes.
Or looking
saying
at our
that we
minutes, yeah, so,
changed.
I mean, there's policy on Facebook and social networking websites and talking about what staff can and can't do, and we're not changing it, we're kind of tweaking it, but
Yeah.
how, do they get an email saying the policy's been updated? We're doing minor changes, but on the laptop use, like,
Right.
does this get pushed out?
Yeah, that's
or-
how it would get pushed out, through a district email.
Okay,
But we would get
Gets
it in, and we
updated
would
on the
update
website.
it, so
yeah, no, I'm
Laura
just
would
wondering if
adjust-
somebody
what-
doesn't
yeah.
happen to go
How
onto the
would they
website
know?
on the
How would
laptop
they know?
policy,
How would
why
they
would
know?
you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, yeah, good, yeah, very good point.
So what are we gonna do about number 1?
It sounds like we're gonna take out non.
Okay. We're gonna just prohibit commercial use of the system/network.
versus saying prohibit non-academic use.
Yeah, because,
We'll just get rid of non.
yeah.
All right. I mean, commercial, I'm not exactly sure what commercial means.
Not managing private business not using school resources to manage private business. I had one more, I'm sorry.
Which one?
In IJNDD,
D,
policy on Facebook social networking websites,
yeah,
4, 5, and 6. All contacts and messages by coaches will be sent to all team members, except for privacy matters. All staff will not give out private cell phones. Inappropriate contact via phone and email is prohibited. From presentations that have happened here, I know there are students that have teachers' phone numbers because one was talking about, I was at a conference and my kids were texting me about what can I do, which makes me think that they don't know that there is a policy or what the policy is, or, and again, I'm not trying to stand in the way, but if we're having a
It's
policy, we should
sure. We have to,
enforce it is a
Abide
very
by it.
strong word, abide by it.
yeah.
Right, so instead it should be an email as opposed to a text or a phone call.
so
Yeah, to their
teachers are,
home email, to their,
To their school
To their
email.
school email address.
So teachers are giving out their cell phones to students.
I have heard at
From
least 2 examples.
here,
I'm not, I don't know if it's a widespread thing, but I know it's come up a couple of times.
Oh,
Teachers
But I
do
think
not have
that's
cell phones, correct?
necessary Because they're.
For the district?
They don't have districts, no, they don't have district cell
They
phones.
don't have districts. There are
The
ways.
coaches
So-
may have
Coaches do, yes.
may have a district issued cell phone.
Okay.
There are ways of. There really shouldn't be any need for
A personal.
a teacher to communicate with one student directly, not in a public setting. So it shouldn't be a one-on-one text message. They can, from my interpretation, they could text the entire class to say, I'm at a conference, do this, or we're on a field trip, we're meeting at 12 o'clock in the lobby of the hotel, or, whatever that is. But it shouldn't be from teacher to
One
Individual
student.
one
student.
individual student.
But it also says here, though, that all staff will not give out private cell or home numbers without approval
From the
Approved from
district.
district.
So they shouldn't even have a group on a text, right? Unless it's approved.
So you're talking like DECA, when DECA goes away.
Yep.
And they need to be in touch with the
with her. That's
teacher,
what
and
the
that is
teachers
the
do.
quickest, most efficient way. But would that
But she's
possibly?
being a chaperone at that point. I think that would be
That would be
different.
approved by the district.
Okay, so
probably.
that would be as a chaperone, but
But it
then
can
again,
only happen
that's a
for those
personal
3
phone
days
number,
of-
and then,
There are
I see your
apps out
point,
there that you
Michael.
could use that
Sure.
that the actual phone number isn't
Yeah, it's not the
isn't
same number.
obvious. So that it's all. At the end of the day, it's to be able to, if heaven forbid something happens, there's a record
right.
that the school owns a record, not it's on somebody's cell phone that
yeah.
is missing or was deleted or whatever.
Or it could possibly be that a school issues a
traveling cell phone.
a traveling phone, right? Something to think
So
about.
if we could look at that.
Sure.
Did I ruin all 3 policies?
You're on a roll. Is there anything else?
I am done.
Well brought up, things. We appreciate that. So how do we wanna go about then moving forward with these? So you're not questioning the verbiage at all, you're questioning just if it's
The
being
implementation.
The
divided,
implementation,
right, right, right. Other than the fact of IJNDBR, we will be
That is the one
removing that. That's the one.
language
Yep.
change. Yes.
Okay, so I will make a motion to approve revisions to the following policies as recommended by the Governance Subcommittee, policy IJNDBR. We will, on number 1, remove the acceptable use policy technology. Under policy IJNDCR, website guidelines and procedures for approval. Policy IJNDD, policy on Facebook and social networking websites.
IJNDCR, did we get?
Is that in here?
Which
I
one
think
is
we got
that?
3.
DD, BR.
Oh, you know what?
You're saying
That's the website
CR?
one that I think.
Which one
needs
which
Oh, that's the
attention.
website.
Yeah.
Okay, so we aren't gonna approve policy IGNDCR.
IJNDCR.
Okay, so let's take that one off.
I guess we're trying to sneak that one.
IJNDD, policy on Facebook and social networking websites, and policy IJNDE, laptop use.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we don't have this one.
We do have, a couple of donations, as I say,
Yeah, I
before our school
apologize,
committee
these
meeting.
literally came in right after we finished.
Without donations, which is very much appreciated. We do have a $1,000 donation from the Georgetown PTA. They helped with the 3rd grade field trip. And then okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the generous donation of $1,000 from the Georgetown PTA for the purpose of offsetting the 3rd grade field trip as presented.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very nice. I'm pretty sure that is the Plymouth Plantation field trip,
It might
because
be.
that's expensive.
3rd grade.
So
Yeah.
that is a very helpful donation, because it's a wonderful trip. And then we also had a donation, which I thought was very interesting, from New Balance, 16 pairs of golf shoes at $45 a pair, and 8 golf bags at $135 each. So, that is a very generous donation. I appreciate the person that requested that for New Balance. I'm sure it had to
Yeah.
have been some work on maybe the golf coach's part, but that was very nice.
How does, and this is procedure, something like shoes, it becomes property of the district. Do we surplus it when those students stop
They
playing golf?
reuse them, right?
Or do we reuse them?
We'd have to reuse
we
them.
reuse them.
Probably have to recondition them. in
Well,
order
that's a
to-
good
Just a
question
little bit
because,
powder
to be
in them.
honest with you, like, how do
We've
you
never
know
had
they-
them.
Yeah.
I don't, how do you know
What
they'll fit the next
Right.
person?
Yeah, I mean,
So currently, the golfers buy their own shoes.
I would assume.
Unless
Assuming
they're
so.
donating them to the golf team and that they just expect those kids to take it.
But then we would have to surplus them.
exactly.
Let
Wouldn't be
me
able to
let me
just
ask.
take
More, more processed than anything.
Let me ask. 'Cause
A
I
great
don't-
donation.
I
but
don't
The
believe
very
bags
surplus.
we can reuse.
Let's talk to Guy about that, but
I'll
that's
ask
what
him.
I was under the assumption that we would just reuse
Can we make that
them.
Ryan's job to,
Yeah.
Recondition
About, ask
Yeah.
ask about what happens
Yeah, after the
like,
season.
I understand how books and all that stuff works, but.
after
Right.
shoes are used.
That's
Well,
an important question.
I'll make a motion to accept the following donation from New Balance. 16 pairs of golf shoes at a cost of $45 a pair, total of $720, and 8 golf bags at $135 each for a total of $1,080.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's very nice, really nice.
I looked into that, I have no idea, it's a good question. I don't think we've
See
ever had a
that one.
donation of shoes before,
No.
now that you mention it.
Okay, so we have a couple of side letters here. So I do recall that we did the quilting. Bob.
Quilting was new this
Yeah,
year.
remember the quilting, because we did that one.
But they
Okay,
did
so
it.
these,
Well, Tricia said.
so
I
these
asked
are the
Tricia-
ones we didn't do?
Right, I asked Tricia to go through the side letters that she had, and she came back and said, I don't have these.
Quilting, I
Okay.
think was last meeting. Or
Yeah,
maybe two-
right.
Last or
Right,
two
This
meetings.
was a
ago.
new,
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
new
Mrs.
meeting.
Lehman,
Right.
So I have to make a motion for, one motion for all of these?
I think you can, yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to, approve the side letters for the Anime Club, stipend in the amount of $1,412. The STEM Club advisor stipend for $1,400. Middle School Art Club advisor stipend for $1,441. And the Art National Honor Society advisor stipend for $1,412.
So moved.
Second is discussion. So that's-
Yeah.
Okay, discussion?
Just to be clear, this is not new money, this is already budgeted, just a
Yeah,
matter
we
of
just
just
didn't
paperwork.
approve, yeah.
Correct, we just,
Perfect.
why are the stipends all different denominations? Just out of curiosity, you know.
We're set in the contract.
that's how they were negotiated over the years. A lot of these are.
I mean, they're
haven't moved.
strange
I
numbers.
know, listen, the last two contract negotiations, I said, we need to look at that schedule, cause, you know, how do we know, like, is it tied to number of hours, number of kids, you know, it's not tied to any of that.
Okay,
And how do you decide 1441 versus 1412?
1412.
I know, I got it,
$29.
I don't know the answer.
And
Trust me, when
1400, I
I'm
mean,
going through
I'm,
all the paperwork, I have
I
to
was just looking at this saying,
approve
what,
them.
how did they arrive at these
That-
numbers?
that's- We asked that same
Someone
question.
did.
Okay.
So sometimes when we add a new one, what we'll do is we'll say, all right, what is it closest to? What, so, you know, if it's something like something else, that's how we do, but
But if you
it
think
really
it's a
would take the whole
stipend,
thing, you'd have to blow the whole thing
and
up
it's
if
a
you were gonna
class.
create a.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe there needs to be something consistent. If it's a class that they're teaching, then that class is this stipend, you know?
Yeah, yeah, we,
Something that's,
yeah, it's
Totally
been,
agree.
over the
Okay.
years, they've agreed to
It's up
those.
to the negotiations committee.
That would be a big, that's a
Big
big
help.
piece of work. It would be a big help, but it's a big piece of
yeah.
work.
all right.
On top
Just
of
curious.
everything else, but yeah, that's what it is, it's, they give an equal value to it, right? So it depends on who's negotiating it,
All right.
as to what it gets decided.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Very good question, though.
Great.
Excellent question.
Can I just make a plug for the PTA auction?
Absolutely.
So just a reminder that the PTA auction is coming up November 18th, 6:30 to midnight at DeBurrows in Haverhill. And get your tickets now. Go to Georgetown pta.com. The first 100 tickets sold are entered into a raffle to win $1,000. The second round of tickets sold, 101 to ticket 200, will have a chance at $750 cash prize. And the third round of tickets, ticket 201 to 300, will have a chance at a $500 prize.
That's good.
So get your tickets now. And the PTA auction committee has a lot of great things
Planned, yeah.
Yeah, they've worked really hard. Donations are coming in. They've almost met their corporate donation goal of $10,000. There's still a few properties left, I guess. So all of the corporate sponsors get a place on the Monopoly board. So their donation, they have a poster. So there's a few properties left. So if anyone knows a business who might like to sponsor, send them our way.
Great.
And the holiday fair is November 4th.
Okay, next week.
So that's next,
Oh,
not
my
this
goodness,
week,
not
it's
this
following
week.
week.
This
Now-
Monday is town meeting.
This Monday is town meeting, that's right.
And the book fair is coming up at Pembroke.
This is a busy.
Yeah, it's a busy
lot.
time of year.
Wow, okay.
Okay, great, thank you for that, letting me know about that. Okay, I think that is all that we have on the agenda this evening. So, I will make a motion to adjourn the open meeting at 9:11 PM. We do need to have an executive session. So at this point in time, I will make a motion to go into executive session, chapter 30, section 21, for the purpose of discussing litigation, and we will not be returning to, open meeting. So
moved.
it's
roll call. So I.
Aye.
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 Great, thank you, good night.
Good night.
Good night.